Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Welcome back to the Saturday night halaqah. And I think last time there was a request to talk about Jannah or heaven. And I thought first we should do some introduction. And so today I want to do an introduction to the idea of heaven. What does that mean? We see a reference to heaven quite a bit in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So inshallah today it'll be an introduction to the idea of heaven. And as we know, heaven in English actually could mean two things, one of two things. It could either mean the sky, and that also we're going to talk about because it could mean several things. It could also mean paradise, what we call Jannah. So we have to be careful not to confuse. So for example, you say if somebody died and he went to heaven, you don't mean that he went to the sky. Well, some people might think that they are in the sky. But we mean that they went to Jannah, for example. Of course, we don't know for sure, but that's what they refer to when they say somebody went to heaven. But also you see in the Quran, there's a lot of reference to the seven heavens. So today, inshallah, we're going to try and explain that a little bit and hopefully clarify some of the confusion there. Now, before I start, I want to share with you a really nice advice that Ibn Abbas gave us. Who is Ibn Abbas? We should all know Ibn Abbas is the cousin of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And he was one of the great scholars of Islam. But at the time of the Prophet, he was a boy, just like many of you. Some of the hadith we see about by Ibn Abbas, when he was, for example, accompanying the Prophet, riding with him. He was like 11 or 12 at the time. He was very young. And he got so much wisdom from the Prophet. So one time, people came to Ibn Abbas after he was famous and a lot of people were coming to him to listen to him. And he asked him, how did you accumulate so much knowledge? How come you know so much? And Ibn Abbas had an answer that I think would apply to all of us. He said, I did it by two things. Not 5, not 10, not 20, just two things. He said, I got knowledge by lisan sa'ul, thank you, wa qalbin aqul. He said, I acquired knowledge by a tongue that asks questions all the time. You know, some people, they don't like asking questions. Either they're too shy, or they're afraid that if they ask questions, it kind of implies that they don't know enough. And the point is, so what? Indeed, we do not know enough. So asking questions is one of the best ways to learn. Asking questions is one of the best ways to seek knowledge. One of the problems also we see today, especially when it comes to religious knowledge, a lot of Muslims are so happy and satisfied just by reading the Quran and taking it at face value and saying, hey, we don't have to investigate, we don't have to ask. Like, there's no reason. So this sense of curiosity has disappeared. So they read something in the Quran, it's talking about the universe, it may not make sense to them, they study something in science, it's kind of different, and they don't care. There's no curiosity. Now that was not the case at the time of the Prophet. We see many times a Bedouin even would come to the Prophet and ask a question. You see many people coming to Ibn Abbas and asking about these, the universe and what it says in the Quran, how does that play out? What does it mean? So it's really important to train yourself to ask questions. That does not denigrate you. It does not take anything away from you. In fact, if anything, it will increase your knowledge. You should always be willing to do that. Also, there's no problem if you say, I don't know. Like a lot of people today, again, they don't want to say that. especially if they're in a position of power, or they're teaching someone, or they're a sheikh or an imam. They don't feel comfortable saying, La adri, I don't know. But it was so common at the time of the Sahaba, the companions and the early Muslims. They have no shame whatsoever to say, or they had no problem whatsoever to say, I do not know. In fact, that's a sign of knowledge. It is not a sign of ignorance. Now, of course, Ibn Abbas, in order to get what he got, you could say, humiliated himself to learn. He used to go and wait outside the houses of the companions, because he was young, and he realized a lot of companions were ahead of him in knowledge. He would wait outside for hours sometimes. Dust on his clothes, on his face, because, it was a desert. And then the companion would come out and see Ibn Abbas at the door. And he would say, what are you doing here? You were the cousin of the Prophet. If you told me, I would have come to your house. Ibn Abbas would say, well, I'm seeking knowledge. I go after knowledge. Knowledge does not come to me. I'm going to go pursue it. I'm going to go after it. And this is how he learned. He gathered a bit of knowledge from here, a bit of knowledge from there, until he was in encyclopedia, we could say. Ibn Abbas was like the Quranic encyclopedia. He would know the meaning of every verse. Not just from the companions, but also the Arabic behind it, the language behind it. He was an encyclopedia in poetry. He memorized the Arabic poetry at the time. So that was one method, he said, by asking many questions. And the second method, he said, وَقَلْبٍ عَقُولٍ, an open mind. And that's also something we all need. Like the Muslims at large, we need that. We need an open mind. A lot of times when we go and ask a sheikh, we already have formulated an opinion in our mind. And the only reason we go is to test the sheikh. We want to see what he says. What is his opinion? Which school does he follow? Which opinion does he go by? We're not really seeking knowledge in that case. All we're doing is we're trying to judge that scholar or that sheikh. So Ibn Abbas says this is not the way to do it. You have to come with an open mind. You go to learn. You expect that this person, this teacher, this sheikh, has much more knowledge than you do, and you try and see if you can learn from him. Now, it doesn't mean that you should be blind following anyone. It doesn't mean that you just, whatever he says, if he says jump in the fire, you jump in the fire. That's not the idea. You also have what? Your own intellect. And you should always use it. It never fails. You always should use your intellect. Again, the Prophet told us, alayhi salam, استفتي قلبك ولو أفتاك الناس وأفتوك. Always consult with your heart. Consult with your mind. Consult with your mind. Even if many scholars and shaykh, give you fatwas, think about it. Sit down and think about it. Try and make sense out of it. Because now we also see a lot of people, they just blind follow whoever is called a leader. So Islam, gave a lot of value to the human being, to the human intellect. Yes, you go out and seek knowledge, you ask questions, but also you utilize your own mind. Okay, so I hope you could use that advice. This is a tip. I thought it would be good to mention in the beginning. Again, I think nowadays the way we approach knowledge in general, we say, well, I have to go to school. Like, it's not my choice even. I go there because either my parents want me to go, or they force me to go, or because I have to get a degree, and so on. And this is not the idea in Islam. That's not the reason we seek knowledge. The reason we seek knowledge is because there has to be a curiosity in you. You want to learn the truth. You want to know the reality of things. So you don't live your life being fooled by others. So it's a really important reason. So going back to the topic, so today we'll talk inshallah a bit about the concept of heaven and what it is in the Quran specifically. If you look in the Quran, there's a reference to sama a lot. Sama in Arabic, and again, if you learn Islam, and you want to learn it in any depth, you should learn a bit of Arabic. You don't have to be an Arabic scholar. But these words are repeated in the Quran over and over again. So you should have some understanding of what it means. So sama could either mean cloud. So anything above you is sama, first of all. Sometimes it refers to the cloud. Sometimes it refers to, you could say, the atmosphere. And sometimes it refers to the universe as a whole. And sometimes it could refer to what is beyond the known universe or the observable universe. So all of that could be referred to as sama. You might ask, well, how do I know? Even in some cases, it could refer to the ceiling. فَلْيَمْدُدْ بِسَبَبٍ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ ثُمَّ يَقْطَعْ, it says. It means in that case, you tie a rope to the ceiling. And well, this is not the topic here, but in some cases, it refers to the ceiling. So that is the nearest thing above you, your own ceiling. All right. So, I'm going to mention three different verses and how it talks about the creation of the heavens and earth, because that is our introduction to this topic. So the first one is way in the beginning. And in the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. So think of it as the beginning here, and it says, have not the disbelievers, and I'll mention in a minute why it mentioned the disbelievers. It didn't say have the people, it didn't say have the Muslims or the believers, it says have not the disbelievers seen that the heavens and earth were one thing, very condensed, because rataq, it means, now rataqa, it means to stitch. But ratq itself is something very condensed and put together, because that is what stitching does. It pulls things together. So it says that the heavens and earth, everything was very condensed, ratq, and then it says فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا, and then we separated them. Fataqa now, if you know a bit of Arabic, it means to tear something apart. Like you say fataqa is to tear the paper or the clothing, fataqahu, that's what it means. And here it says that the heavens and earth were all put together, condensed, and then they were separated. So this could refer to the Big Bang. So that is the first verse. The second one, it talks about some time later. Again, the Quran is not, the purpose of the Quran is not to give us like minute details of cosmology or astronomy. But it gives us references. And then it tells us, go out and seek it and learn it yourself. But the one thing, in my opinion, we should not do, and this is what I see a lot today among people in general, Muslims included, is that we say, I don't care, whatever is happening out there is not my problem. It's not my concern. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to say something to these people. So to those people he said, وَكَأَيِّ مِنْ آيَةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. How many signs, because all what you see around you are signs. How many signs in the heavens and earth that they come across, they pass by, and they don't pay attention to. وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. They turn away. They think it's not a big deal, it's not important. And I know many people think that physics is lame, that astronomy is lame, biology is lame. But here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, no, this is something for you to investigate, to look into, to study, to analyze, to think about. So the second verse that I want to talk about is, like I said, it comes later. And it says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. He is the one who created everything on earth for you, for your sake. So it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared this earth for us. It also means that we could benefit from everything that Allah created on earth. So, what is the definition of earth? What is ard that we see in the Quran? It is basically anything we stand on, anything below us. That is the definition of earth. So here basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that we can benefit from everything on earth, whether it is in land, in the sea, it could be an animal, a plant, it could be something inanimate, it could be inside the earth, like all the metals and so forth. And that's also a rule in Islam that we all should know. This principle is that everything is halal until proven otherwise. I know maybe some Muslims nowadays, they take the opposite stance. They consider everything haram until proven otherwise. But this verse tells us that Allah created everything on earth for us, for our sake. So we can benefit from it. So it is the fact that everything is halal, everything is permissible, it is allowed until proven otherwise. So that means we could, benefit from it in any way we like. We can eat from it, we can drink from it, we can wear it, we could use it as a form of decoration, like for beauty. We could write on it, we could use it for medicine, for healing. All of that is part of our use of these resources. Is that clear? That principle? So I said you could use it for everything like eating and drinking. But obviously there's certain things that are haram. But those things are the exception, not the rule. So if there's something we don't know about, like it doesn't say that it is haram, clearly that it is haram, then what is the rule? What do we do about it? Is it halal or not? Come on, wake up. That's not a good one. What is the question? Means you're not thinking. Yes. So if there's something we don't know about, like there's no evidence that it is haram, then by default, many examples of that. But we're not going to go there now, unless you ask. And what is a good example of something that is not clearly written? Snail, maybe, I don't know. So some people ask, they wonder. So some scholars have said snail is not allowed because it is gross. It is disgusting. Okay, fine. I mean, you could use that as a criteria. But again, there's nothing clear that it is haram. So if you don't like it, fine. I mean, one time the Prophet was offered a lizard. A lizard. And he refused to eat it. He said, I don't eat it. And the companions asked, is it haram? He said, no, but I'm not used to eating that kind of food. Like my people do not eat that kind of food. So in the a'afah, like I don't feel like eating it. It's gross to me. But it does not make it haram. So lizard is another example. Now what kind of lizard? I don't know. It's dub in Arabic. And dub could be a desert kind of lizard. Maybe the bigger ones with a thicker skin and stuff like that.
What about shrimp? Shrimp and lobster?
Shrimp.
Shrimp and lobster.
In my opinion, that's a clear matter, but I know in some madhab, like the Hanafi madhab specifically, they distinguish between fish and seafood in general. And the reason is because, quickly, since you brought it up, there are two competing hadith. One hadith, the Prophet was asked, what do you think about the food that comes from the sea? And it didn't specify. And he replied, he said, Al-Bahar huwa al-tahuru ma'uh al-hilu maytatuh. He said, the sea, everything in it, all the dead animals, because you don't slaughter a fish. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you eat a rotten fish. It means something that died in the sea, meaning you extract it and eat it.
So do we give the same characteristic to catfish or no?
Yeah, the catfish is the same thing, except it's freshwater.
Okay, but
It's So let me finish that first because I know this is gonna go into a lot of different questions. So, I think 3 out of 4 schools have said seafood is halal because of this hadith. Because the Prophet did not specify. He said anything in the sea you can eat from. Anything that lives in the sea. Now there is another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Uhilla lana maytatan wa daman." He said 2 types of dead animals are allowed, and 2 types of blood, because we know blood is not halal to eat, except 2 things. As far as the dead meat, he'd say, there's the as-samak wal jarad, he said. Fish, so he did not say seafood, he said fish. And jarad, which is crickets or locusts, something like that. It's halal, I mean, again, you don't have to eat it. I heard it's crunchy, but I don't know. Grasshopper, yes. Or locust, I mean, some people say that. So that's the reason why we have a difference of opinion among scholars. I think, obviously, I take the opinion that it is halal, but like I said, I think it is in the Hanafi madhab because Imam Abu Hanifa took the other hadith that says only fish is allowed. So by definition then, anything else in the sea is not. But the other hadith says that every seafood is allowed. Anyway, going back here.
What about the blood?
Oh, al-kabid wa al-tihal, he said. The spleen and the liver. It has a lot of blood, but it's halal to eat. Okay.
Isn't it also the Quran said,
Yes, I mean, that's a general statement, but I think in the hadith it is more specific. This is why the scholars go back to hadith, because it is more specific. But yeah, this ayah also could be used. Okay.
What about seafood that lives on water and on land? For example, like crab and turtle.
Crab, you said?
Yeah, crab.
Yeah, crab is mostly, I mean, they live in the sea. They could come out, but it's considered a sea animal. So it's not an amphibian, where it could breathe outside and live outside for a long time. But mostly it lives in the sea, but yes, it can come out. So that's halal too. Okay, so going back to the topic. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that He created the earth for our benefit and everything in it is for us, for our use. And then he said, ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. Okay guys, I do not want anyone to go outside unless we have a good reason. Especially if we have young kids. You're not young, that young. But maybe you can call the kids who went out. I just want to make sure no people go outside and run to the street. Thank you. So here it says, and then, so after He created the earth, I don't know what happened. Right, anyways. So it says, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned to the heaven and He made it 7 heavens. So that's one of the verses that talks about the heaven, or the 7 heavens. So the question here is, where are these 7 heavens? You don't hear, when you study science, you don't hear of 7 heavens. So the question is, where are they? What are they? And I'll mention like the most common opinion. The most common opinion is that what we see around us, like the observable universe, like all of it is the first heaven. And that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ. So the lowest heaven is the one that has the stars and the planets and so on. So imagine if this is only the first heaven, and we know how wide it is, right? I mean, I don't know, I don't keep up. I mean, it keeps increasing. I mean, the last I heard might have been, what, 90 or so billion light years, like the size of the observable universe. It's quite a bit, 93 billion light years. But that's all part of as-sama ad-dunya, the lowest heaven, or the closest heaven to us, or the first heaven. Okay, last but not least, so this is the last passage I'll mention, and it has more details of what happened, and according to the Quran. So it says, أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاء بَنَاهَا. So here he talks about, first of all, it is a comparison between our creation and the creation of the heavens and earth. And he said the creation of the heavens and earth is difficult in our standard. Is more difficult in our standard because the heavens and earth are so big and so wide. In fact, sorry, it's not heavens and earth, only the heavens, as-sama. But look what he said. He said, رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا فَسَوَّاهَا. رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا is to increase. Rafa is to increase. So he said, he increased the thickness of it. Samak, if you know Arabic, again, samik is something that is thick. رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا is to increase the thickness of it so much. So here, what sama is he talking about? Now you need to wake up. Earlier I said that sama is different types, or sama could mean different things. What are they? Quickly. What are they? You don't have to raise your hand, just answer. Let's not twist arms. First is like the roof. Let's start with the roof, that's the closest to us. Roof, sky, or it could be the clouds. For example, أنزل من السماء ماء. When you see in the ayah it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let the rain fall from the sama. What is the sama here? The cloud. Or for example, he said, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ. Your sustenance is in the sama. And some people wonder, what, rizq, sustenance is hanging from the sky? No, it means the rain again, because rain is a sign of sustenance and provision. Especially in the old days, because people relied on agriculture. They relied on plants and trees and produce, right? So when he says, أنزل من السماء ماء, or rizq, sorry, I mixed up the two. When he says that the sustenance comes from the heavens, it means it comes from the sky. So that is the cloud. What is after? We said? Space or the universe. So that is the expansive universe. That is the observable universe at least. So here when he said, رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا, he increased the width or the thickness of the sama. Which sama is he talking about? The roof, the cloud, the sky, the universe, exactly. So basically this verse is telling us that the thickness of the universe is so much, so big. It's very thick, meaning it's very, very expansive. Not expensive, expansive with an A. Meaning very wide. So رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا, the thickness of it is increasing also. Could refer to the fact that the universe is expanding also. Because it says rafa is to raise. Right? فَسَوَّاهَا, he also made it very, very intricate and balanced. That is taswiyah. Taswiyah is to make it balanced. So this could refer to gravity also, because gravity is what keeps it together. It is what holds it together. And then it says, وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shaped the earth and He made duhya or tadhiya, so we'll talk about that, what that means. But this clearly says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was, He created the universe and everything, and then He created, or He paid attention to the earth and made it the way it is now. So what is Daha? You all know surah. What surah is this, by the way?